Yes. Good morning and welcome back to Branding Institute of Forensics and Security. Um, our administrator, um, Mr. Chris, mentioned me that this is the last weekend of training or of presentations, and then next Saturday we move to the semester exams. So we have two lessons left under strategic management, and we are going to try and focus on them today. So I'll be a little bit fast so that we can cover these two lessons. First of all, this lesson that I have is a little bit long because it is 55 slides, and it is very important for the students of strategic management. We are going to be talking about retrenchment strategies, and we are going to be talking about turnaround strategy, divestment strategy, liquidation, merger, acquisition, and joint ventures. These are some of the retrenchment strategies that may be adopted by an organization that is in crisis or that wants to change its direction to maximize on share market, and also to maximize on profit, and also to reduce on weaknesses, and to increase on the strength, among other issues. So we shall be talking about turnaround, we shall be talking about divestment, we shall be talking about liquidation, we shall be talking about merger, we shall be talking about acquisition, and then we shall be talking about joint venture. We are going to start straight away with a turnaround. And we see that a turnaround strategy is a plan to reorganize and revitalize a struggling business or organization. It can be referred to as converting a loss-making unit into a profitable one. According to Dictionary of Marketing, turnaround means making the company profitable again. Turnaround means making the company profitable again. So we are talking about a company that is struggling, a company that is not doing well, and then now it needs to be made profitable again. Turnaround is possible only where the company restructure its operation. It is a broader strategy, and it can include divestment or get out of certain business and sell off units or downsize. As you see the arrow there from the sign, it shows you the company is turning around, that the company has lost its objective, the company is not moving in the right direction, company is not making revenue, the company is in problems, so the company needs to be turned around. That's what we call turnaround strategy. Normally, the turnaround strategy aims at improvement in declining sale or market share and profit. The declining sales or market share may be due to several factors, both internal and external to the firm. Some of these factors may include high cost of materials, lower price utilization for the goods and services, increased competition, recession, managerial inefficiency, etc. So as you can see, managerial inefficiency is one of the reasons that a company may fail to gain a good share of the market, and also it is one of the reasons why a company may start declining in terms of profit and starts failing. Managerial inefficiency. So if the managers are inefficient, then the company may need to be turned around, and the strategy here is maybe to replace the whole management, as we shall see. What is the need for turnaround strategy? We look at that again, the need for turnaround strategy. A firm may opt for turnaround strategy in the following situations. Number one, note this one down, liquidity problem. A company may be facing liquidity problem, i.e. shortage of cash or liquid assets. This may be due to less inflow and a rising outflow of funds. The liquidity problem affects the working capital needed by the firm. Number two, is fall in market share or sales. A firm may face the problem of declining market share, which may be due to heavy competition or ineffective marketing and distribution of goods and services. So fall in market share may call for turnaround. Liquidity problems may call for turnaround. Another reason is decline in profits when the company is not making good profit. A firm may witness decline in profits over a period of time and may start incurring losses. The loss may be due to increase in costs and lower revenues. And then another reason is also underutilization of plant capacity. If the production capacity of a plant is underutilized, this can be done by merging the firm with another company, which is in a position to make optimum use of installed capacity. And then we have high inventory. There are cases where the inventory piles up continuously, which indicates that the sales are declining and therefore turnaround is required through restructuring. Otherwise, they may have to close down. So high inventory. So decline in profits, decline in market share, and then liquidity problems, underutilization of plant capacity, and then high inventory are some of the reasons that the top management may sit down and decide to adopt a turnaround strategy. Managing a turnaround. We have seen the reasons for turnaround, and mainly we have seen that it is when the company is not doing very well, company is not making profit, the company has liquidity problems, the company's plant is underutilized, then the company may turn to turnaround. And managing a turnaround, there are three ways in which turnaround can be managed. Three ways by which turnaround can be managed. Number one, turnaround can be managed by company executives. The turnaround can be managed by existing company executives, including the chief executive officer. The management may take the help of an external expert or consultant to brainstorm sessions. Brainstorm sessions are held. Every member of the turnaround team is expected to give suggestions or ideas to reduce losses and improve profitability. The ideas are then evaluated, and finally, a turnaround action plan is prepared and implemented. And then also external consultant. This is another way that a company may manage a turnaround. External consultant. In this case, an external consultant is appointed to take the complete charge of managing the turnaround. The existing executives are asked to hand over the affairs of the company to the consultant. The manager team is kept aside until the turnaround plan is completed. The turnaround consultant is appointed as per the instructions of the firm or financial institutions. The turnaround consultant continues to manage the firm until the turnaround plan is completely implemented. The consultant is given the complex work of identifying the causes of declining trends in sales, market share, and profit, preparing the action plan for turnaround, and implementing the action plan successfully. So we see that when we go to turn an external consultant during turnaround, then an external manager is appointed. The management team is told to sit aside or to go on unpaid leave until the process is completed. So the manager has the responsibility to prepare the action plan for the turnaround and then to implement the action plan successfully. A new chief executive. In this method, the chief executive of the sick company is either asked to resign or replaced by a new one. The top management team may also be changed. This practice is normally followed in the case of American firms. The chief executive, with the help of a turnaround consultant, prepare an action plan for turnaround. The new chief executive may adopt either of the two approaches, a surgical approach or non-surgical approach. So we see that when we appoint a new consultant, and you have had this in most companies in Kenya, where the top management is removed from office, a new chief executive is appointed, new managers are appointed for the purposes of turning around a company that is losing direction. Types of turnaround. Turnaround strategies are plans businesses implemented to reverse a decline in performance and improve profitability. Several types of turnaround strategies can be used depending on the specific circumstances of the business. Number one is cost reduction. That is one type of turnaround. Cost reduction involves reducing costs through measures such as layoffs, outsourcing, reducing operating expenses, and improving efficiency. Number two is revenue growth. This involves increasing revenue through product innovation, expanding the product line, increasing market share, and increasing sales. And then there is also asset restructuring. Involves restructuring the company's assets, such as devising underperforming businesses, selling of assets, and merging with other companies. So those are some of the type of turnaround strategy: cost reduction, revenue growth, and asset restructuring. And then also financial restructuring involves changing the company's capital structure, such as issuing new uh, debt or equity, refinancing existing debt, or negotiating contracts with creditors. And then we have management restructuring. It involves changing the company's leadership, such as replacing the CEO or other key executives and bringing in new management talent. And then we also have turnaround through acquisition. It involves acquiring another company to improve profitability or enter new markets. And then we have bankruptcy or liquidation. As a last resort, a company may file for bankruptcy or liquidate its assets to settle debts and obligations. So those are some of the types of turnaround strategies. And then let's look at a case study for turnaround. So let's look at one case study for turnaround. There was a turnaround implemented by McDonald's in the late 2000. Background: McDonald's is a fast food restaurant chain founded in 1940. By the 1990s, the company had become a global icon with over 3,000 locations worldwide. However, by mid-2000, the company faced several challenges, including declining sales and negative profitability over its unhealthy menu. Challenge: McDonald's was struggling to attract customers as it faced increased competition from other fast food chains and changed consumer preferences towards healthier options. The company's menu needed to be updated, and its image had become associated with unhealthy food. Solution: in 2003, the firm, the CEO, Jim Skinner, was appointed as the CEO of McDonald's, and he implemented a turnaround strategy called Plan to Win. The strategy focused on improving the brand's quality, service, cleanliness, and value. So that is an example of turnaround strategy implemented by McDonald's over its declining customer base, declining share market due to negative perception and due to its type of food menu that was considered by consumers to be unhealthy. So a new CEO was appointed to turn around the organization. Number two, we talk about divestment strategy. This strategy involves dropping some of the product markets or functions. The dropping of activities or business can be attained rather through sale or liquidation. Divestment strategies are financial approaches that involve the sale or liquidation of assets, businesses, units within a company. Divestment can occur for several reasons and be used in various strategies. Strategy number one we have seen is turnaround. Strategy number two is divestment, which is dropping some of the product, market, or functions. There are several reasons or objectives for adopting divestment strategies, such as necessity for withdrawal of obsolete products, which no longer brings good returns to the farm, and therefore they can be divested. Therefore, the farm may get rid of obsolete products and concentrate on those products which has good market share. Problem of mismatch. A business that has been acquired by the farm may prove to be a mismatch with the existing business, and therefore such business may be difficult to integrate with the existing business of the company. Therefore, the farm may take initiative to get rid of the newly acquired business as quickly as possible so as to avoid future problems. So, problem of mismatch. There is also focus on core operations. Companies often divest business units or subsidiaries that are not part of their core operations. The company might have initially expanded into those areas as part of a growth strategy. Still, over time, these areas may distract from their core business or not generate sufficient profits. And then also a company may go into divestment to raise capital. Companies might divest assets or businesses units to raise capital for new investment or to repay debts. The company can quickly generate cash by selling off its assets and then raise capital. Companies might divest assets or businesses to raise capital and then efficiency in improvements. Divestment can also be used to improve operational efficiency by selling underperforming or non-core business units. A company can reduce its complexity and strengthen its focus on its most profitable areas. So that is what we call divestment strategy. Also, a company may go into divestment due to regulatory requirements. For example, after mergers or acquisitions, a company might have to divest certain assets to avoid violating antitrust laws. And then environmental, social, and governance concerns. Some divestment strategies are driven by social or environmental considerations rather than purely financial ones. For example, a company might choose to divest from industries seen as harmful to the environment or society, such as fossil fuels or tobacco. This can also apply to investment funds that flow socially responsible investments. SRI principles that follow a socially responsible investing, such principles. Sorry. The process of divestment includes identifying the assets or business units to be sold, valuing these assets, finding potential buyers, carrying out the transaction, and after the divestment, the company might use the proceeds to invest in its remaining operations, return money to shareholders, or reduce debt. Examples of divestment strategy: spin-off. In 2020, VF Corporation, the apparel and footwear company, completed the spin-off its jeanswear business into a separate public company, Counter Brands. This allowed VF Corporation to focus on its active and outdoor lifestyle brands and the Counter Brands to operate independently with a focus on denim. So that is one way of divestment is a spin-off. So write down spin-off. Number two is a split up. That is another way of divestment. In 2015, eBay and PayPal split into two separate publicly traded companies. The split up enabled each company to focus on its core business and pursue its strategic objectives independently. So you can see another way of divestment is a split up. Another way of divestment is equity carve-out. Equity carve-out. In 2019, Siemens AG spin off its gas and power division into a separate entity through an initial public offering. The spin-off, the spin-off Siemens Energy allowed Siemens AG to focus more on its core areas such as digital industries and smart infrastructure. There is also another way of divestment, which is asset sale. In 2016, Yahoo Inc. sold its core internet business to Verizon Communication Inc. for US dollar 4.8 billion. The sale was part of Yahoo's plan to slim down and turn around its struggling operations. And then liquidation. In 2017, Toys R Us filed for bankruptcy and decided to liquidate its assets after failing to restructure its heavy debt load or find a buyer. The company closed its stores and sold off its assets to pay its creditors. So you can see how divestment happens. And then management buyout. In 1989, the airline company United Airlines experienced an MBO considered one of the largest at that time. The employees acquired most of the company's stocks through their employer stock ownership plan. And then we have social or environmental divestment. In recent years, many institutional investors like universities and pension funds have divested fossil fuels due to climate change concerns. They are selling off their holdings in coal, oil, and gas companies and instead investing in renewable energy and other more sustainable technologies. So you can see social or environmental divestment. A case study on divestment strategy. Case study on divestment strategy. The divestment of Nokia's mobile phone business to Microsoft. In 2000, Nokia was the world's largest vendor of mobile phones. However, the advent of smartphones like Apple's iPhone and the brands using Google's Android operating system began to eat into Nokia's market share. Nokia had its Lumia smartphone running on Microsoft Windows phone platform, but struggled to compete against its rivals. Case study on divestment strategy, the divestment of Nokia's mobile phone business to Microsoft. We have already discussed this. We say that the divestment decision. By 2013, Nokia had decided to divest its struggling mobile phone division. Microsoft, keen on boosting its position in the smartphone market, decided to buy Nokia's phone business. The deal was announced in September 2013, with Microsoft paying sterling pounds 5.44 billion, around 7.2 billion US dollars. The rationale. From Nokia's perspective, the decision to sell off its phone business was based on several strategic considerations. Nokia's mobile phone business was not performing well financially and was losing market share. By diversing its struggling business, Nokia could stem its financial losses. The divestment allowed Nokia to focus on its other business, particularly its networking equipment business, Nokia Networks, which was more profitable and had better long-term prospects. From Microsoft's perspective, acquiring Nokia's phone business offered a chance to strengthen its position in the mobile market, particularly by boosting the prospects of its Windows Phone platform. The outcome. The deal closed in April 2014. However, it didn't turn out well for Microsoft. The company struggled to integrate the Nokia business and to make a success of its mobile phones. By 2015, Microsoft had written off 7.6 billion related to the accusation and announced plans to lay off up to 7,800 employees, primarily in the phone business. This case study is a good example of a divestment strategy driven by need to focus on core operations and stop financial loss. Although the outcome was not positive for Microsoft, it shows that divestment can be a crucial strategic option for companies in certain situations. So it was not successful, but it still shows that divestment can be a crucial strategic option for companies in certain situations. Number three, let's look at liquidation. The main objective of a business is to increase market share and profitability. They use multiple management and marketing strategies to achieve their goals. Sometimes things don't go as planned. When things don't work out, they pull out of their resources to minimize the losses. Liquidation is the extreme case of divestment strategy. In this case, the organization takes the decision to sell its entire business, and funds so realized can be invested in some other business. So liquidation is when a firm decides to sell off its entire business. Liquidation is common in case of small businesses where the owners sell their entire business units and then invest in some other area. The decision to close down or liquidate the firm is taken when the firm is continuously suffering from losses and all efforts to make it profitable again have failed. So when all the efforts to make it profitable again have failed, then a firm, organization owners, and the general management may decide to liquidate, which is selling off the entire business. Reasons for liquidation. Reasons. When a firm is continuously suffering losses and all efforts to make it profitable again have failed, it may go into liquidation. When a firm has accumulated losses and some other firms offer prices to take benefit of tax advantages, then it senses to sell the unit. Some firm may offer a better price as they may like to consolidate their market position with the competitors, and therefore a firm which is offered a better deal may be offered to divert. When a firm finds it difficult to manage the present business due to declining sales and low or no profits, then it may liquidate its business. When a business is in a peak form but the future is not certain, a firm may decide to divest its business and obtain a good price. So just take it down that liquidation is when a company or firm sells its entire business. Steps for liquidation. Steps. So steps for divestment starts with for liquidation starts with the decision to liquidate. The decision must be made. The first step in the liquidation process is the decision to liquidate. This might be voluntary decision made by the company's owners or creditors, or a court order could force it. So number one is a decision has to be made. And then appointment of a liquidator. A liquidator is appointed to oversee the process. In voluntary liquidation, the shareholders usually appoint the liquidator, while in compulsory liquidation by the court appoints one. The liquidator can be an independent third party or a specialized firm. And then we also have number three, assessment of assets and liabilities. The liquidator assesses the company's assets and liabilities. This includes everything the company owns, like real estate, inventory, and cash, and owner like loans, wages, and taxes. So an assessment is carried out to find out the assets the company owns, the inventory, and even money that the company owes. And then based on that assessment, following steps are then taken. And then there is a notification of creditors and shareholders. The liquidator must notify all creditors and shareholders about liquidation. This is usually done in writing, and there may be legal requirements for public notifications, such as newspaper ads or official gazette notifications. Then we have to notify creditors and shareholders, and then sale of assets. The liquidator will sell off the company's assets. This could be done through auctions, private sales, or sales to existing stakeholders. The goal is to get the highest possible price to pay off as much debt as possible. And then there is a settlement of claims. The proceeds from the sale of assets are used to pay off the company's debts using secured creditors, though those with a legal claim to the specific assets, like a mortgage lender, are paid first, followed by unsecured creditors. If there are any remaining funds, they are distributed among shareholders. So those are the steps for liquidation. And then we also see dissolution of the company. The company is then finally dissolved, and then there is a final report that is submitted. The liquidator will often prepare a final report outlining how the liquidation was carried out, how assets were sold, how the proceeds were distributed, and the final outcome of the liquidation process. It's important to note that liquidation is a complex process and often requires legal and financial expertise. Companies going through this process usually hire professionals to guide them and ensure they comply with all legal requirements. And then let's also turn our attention to types of liquidation strategies. A business may use several types of liquidation strategies depending on its circumstances. The following are some of the most common. Orderly liquidation. This involves a strategic and a gradual process of selling off assets. The intent is to avoid a sudden flood of assets into the market, which could depress prices and lead to lower recovery. It is often used when the business is not in immediate financial distress but has decided to cease operation. So orderly, slowly, the assets are sold and the business starts to go into to cease operations as days go by. And then forced liquidation. This strategy is often used when the business is in severe financial distress or insolvent, and assets must be sold quickly to pay off creditors. Assets are usually sold as quickly as possible, often for less than their full value. So forced liquidation, assets are usually sold for less than their full value. Uh, then we have three voluntary liquidation. These are strategies for liquidation. This is when the company's owners decide to cease operations and liquidate assets. This is usually because the business is no longer viable, but not necessarily insolvent. The assets are sold and the proceeds are used to pay off creditors. Any remaining proceeds are then distributed to shareholders. And then compulsory liquidation. This is initiated by creditors and involves a court process. Compulsory involves a court process. It happens when a company cannot pay its debts and the creditors petition the court to force it into liquidation. The court appoints a liquidator who sells the assets and distributes the proceeds to creditors. So compulsory liquidation. And then we have members voluntary liquidation. This is a formal insolvency process initiated by the shareholders of a solvent company. The company's directors declare solvency, stating that it can pay its debts in full within a specified period, usually 12 months. The company's assets are liquidated and the proceeds are distributed to creditors and shareholders. And then number 6, we have creditors voluntary liquidation. This process is initiated by the directors of an insolvent company. The assets are liquidated and the proceeds are distributed to creditors. A CVL can be a way to prevent compulsory liquidation and provide a better outcome for creditors. Each type of liquidation strategy has different impacts on the company, its creditors and shareholders, and each involves a different level of control by the company's management. Let's talk about briefly about bankruptcy and versus liquidation. Bankruptcy is for individual person, and liquidation is for companies. However, bankruptcy is a legal term when the law declares an individual person insolvent because it can't pay its debt. Liquidation, on the other hand, is the company's decision and the strategy to shut down its business operations. Bankruptcy and liquidations both are the same because businesses and companies can't pay off their debts in both cases. Liquidation refers to business operations of the company, and bankruptcy refers to only to the individual persons. Bankruptcy refers to individual persons. And then let's look at a few examples. Few examples below are a few examples of how different types of liquidation strategies might be used in specific circumstances. Orderly liquidation. A manufacturing company facing declining sales over several years decides to cease operations. Instead of abruptly shutting down and selling off all assets at once, the company takes a planned approach, gradually selling machinery, real estate, and inventory to maximize the return from the assets. Another example is forced liquidation. A restaurant chain facing immediate insolvency due to an economic downturn might be forced into quick liquidation to satisfy its urgent financial obligations. This could involve an auction or a rapid sale of assets, including kitchen equipment, furniture, and leasehold improvements. Voluntary liquidation. After struggling to find a profitable business model, a tech startup decides to liquidate voluntarily. They proceed to sell their intellectual property, several equipment, and office supplies, and use the proceeds to pay off their creditors. Then let's look at compulsory liquidation. Those are just examples. You can read on your own for a few minutes. Members voluntary liquidation and creditors voluntary liquidation. I'll pick a charger for this laptop. So you read those types of liquidation. Read compulsory liquidation, members voluntary liquidation, and creditors voluntary liquidation. Those are examples. So I hope you have written something down regarding those examples. We move on to the next slide where we now look at merger. What is merger? You have heard about this term in the business world. At your level, I know you have heard about mergers. So, what is a merger and how is it done? Key takeaways of merger. Mergers are a way for companies to expand their reach, expand into new segments, or gain market share. A merger is the voluntary fusion of two companies on broadly equal terms into one new legal entity. The five major types of mergers are conglomerate, uh, co-grainage, market extension, horizontal, and vertical. These terms, I don't know my tongue, but you can read those two first terms. But one of them is market extension, horizontal, and vertical. These are types of mergers. Now, how a merger works. A merger is the voluntary fusion of two companies on broadly equal terms into one new legal entity. The firms that agree to merge are routinely equal in terms of size, customers, and scale of operations. The term merger of equals is sometimes used. Acquisitions, unlike mergers, are generally not voluntary and involve one company actively purchasing another company. So you should be able to differentiate between merger and acquisition. Mergers are mostly done to gain market share, reduce costs of operations, expand to new territories, unite common products, grow revenues, and increase profits, all of which should benefit the firm's shareholders. After a merger, shares of the new company are distributed to existing shareholders for both original businesses. So simply a merger is when two companies come together, they fusion of two companies together, and then they start to operate under one name, under same management. Types of mergers. There are various types of mergers depending on the goal of the companies involved. One is called conglomerate. This term is really difficult. This is a merger between two or more companies engaged in unrelated business activities. The firms may operate in different industries or in different geographical regions. A pure conglomerate involves two firms that have nothing in common. A mixed conglomerate, on the other hand, takes place between organizations that, while operating in unrelated business activities, are actually trying to gain product or market extensions through the merger. Companies with no overlapping factors will only merge if it makes sense from a shareholder wealth perspective. That is, if the companies can create synergy, which includes enhancing value performance and cost savings. Congeneric. A congeneric merger is also known as a product extension merger. A product extension merger. In this type, it is a combining of two or more companies that operate in the same market or sector with overlapping factors such as technology, marketing, production, process, and research and development. A product extension merger is achieved when a new product line from one company is added to an existing product line of the other company. When two companies become one under a product extension, they are able to gain access to a larger group of consumers and hence a larger market share. An example of this type of merger is Citi Group's 1998 union with Travelers Insurance, two companies with complementing products, two companies with complementing products. Then also we have a market extension. This type of merger occurs between companies that sell the same product but compete in different markets. Companies that engage in a market extension merger seek to gain access to a bigger market and hence a bigger client base to extend their markets. Horizontal merger. This is a horizontal merger occurs between companies operating in the same industry. The merger is typically part of consolidation between two or more companies offering same products or services. The 1998 merger of Daimler-Benz and Chrysler is considered a horizontal merger. You have also heard in Kenya some security companies have merged, some organizations have merged. You can source for examples and see how this horizontal merger happens. Then we also have a vertical merger when two companies that produce parts or services for a product merger. The union is referred to as a vertical merger. A vertical merger occurs when two companies operating at different levels within the same industry's supply chain combine their operations. Such mergers are done to increase synergies achieved through the cost reduction, which results from merging with one or more supply companies. One of the most well-known companies of a vertical merger took place in the year 2000 when internet provider American Online AOL combined with media Time Warner. So that is one example of a vertical merger. The largest mergers in history have totaled over US dollars 100 billion each. In 2000, Vodafone acquired Manseman for $181 billion to create the world's largest mobile telecommunications company. In 2000, AOL and Time Warner vertically merged in a US dollar 164 billion deal, considered one of the biggest flops ever. In 2014, Verizon Communication bought out Vodafone's 45% stake in Vodafone Wireless for 130 billion US dollars. So you can see how these things are very expensive and how companies merge and the amount of money that we are using as examples. And then we now focus on a takeover strategy. A takeover involves the acquisition or whole of the equal capital of another firm, which enables the firm acquiring another to exercise effective control over the affairs of the taken over firm. With the help of a takeover, a firm can expand its capacity or competence in the desired area of operation. Takeover can help a firm to a new business without disadvantages of gestation or setup time. Takeover strategy may bring several advantages. Takeover strategies may bring several advantages. They can bring benefits of size and synergy. There can be operational efficiencies. The taken over firm can enjoy tax benefits if the taken over firm had accumulated losses. There can be faster growth rate. It can generate economics of large-scale production and distribution. It can help to face competition in the market. Refer for explanation of advantage and the merger strategy. Joint venture is a type of partnership where two or more firms come together and establish a new business unit to achieve certain well-defined goals. Joint venture involves sharing of ownership, management, and control of a separate business until established separate unit established for mutual benefit by two or more companies. So you can also read on yourself by yourself on joint ventures. And then we also see this is what we are going to discuss next here. A joint venture is a business arrangement in which two or more parties agree to pool their resources for the purposes of accomplishing a specific task. This task can be a new project or any other business activity. Each of the participants in a joint venture is responsible for profits, losses, and costs associated with it. However, the venture is its own entity, separate from the participants' other business interests. In general, joint ventures are very common and popular in the international trade and are a best way to enter into foreign collaboration. Key takeaways. In a joint venture, two or more business decide to combine their resources in order to fulfill a a project or a desired goal. They are partnering into the equitable sense of the word, but take on any legal structure. A common use of joint venture is to partner up with a local business to enter a foreign market. Joint ventures. Joint ventures, two or more businesses decide to come together to attain a certain goal. The four main reasons for companies to form joint ventures is to leverage resources, to reduce costs, to combine expertise, to enter foreign markets. The following are the main features of a joint venture. Joint venture is an arrangement between two parties for specific purpose, like production, marketing, transfer, or sharing of technology. The participating firms contribute money, management, and technical knowledge on how plant and machinery and other facilities for the accomplishment of the agreed objectives. The ownership, management, and control in the new business suit are shared by the participating firms in the agreed portion. Joint venture agreement can be entered into by two more local companies, a local company and a government company, a local company and a foreign company. Those are examples. Advantages of joint venture: huge capital, synergic effect, better use of resources. Huge capital, synergic effect, better use of resources, and goodwill and reputation, risk sharing, expansion, and diversification. Joint venture enables a business entity to expand and diversify its business operations. This is because of combined strength of parties involved in a joint venture. And then we say limitations of joint ventures: delay in decision makings and conflicts. Joint ventures involve joint decision making by partners. Since many people are involved in decision making, it slows down the decision making, resulting into delayed actions. And then conflicts. Joint ventures also are prone to conflicts among parties concerned. This happens when the interests and objectives of parties are not similar, or when one of the parties is aggrieved or dominated by another partner. And then uncertainty, and also short life, and also transfer of outdated technology. These are some of the disadvantages. Please read on them again on your own about joint ventures. Read about advantages and disadvantages. And then we see also other advantages are unfair terms and conditions, and also drain on foreign exchange. A joint venture involving a foreign party may drain foreign exchange out of the country due to the payment of royalty and dividends. Those are some of the disadvantages of joint ventures. This was a long presentation. I hope you have learned something out of it. You have learned about the strategies used for retrenchment. You have seen we have mergers, we have liquidations, we have joint ventures, we have also the other types that we have spoken about. So I wish you well. Read more on these things, gain more knowledge on it, because this is where you are moving, as I have always said. As I've always said, this is the direction your life is taking. This is the direction your career is taking, to understand aspects of strategic management as it relates to restructuring of companies when profits are not very good, or when the company is in their consequences. With those few remarks, we will meet again for the next lesson. Thank you.